All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. I tell you something. Please, stop. Please.
Wow, they're going crazy for you today.
Show of applause. You love ice. Oh, yeah. I thought that would get you to stop. It is a great thrill to be with you. My limousine running a little bit behind. We had to stop and recharge. It is an e-limo. But I am very happy to be with you, and what a show we have for you today. It's extraordinary. We put together a very, all right. Let's not go nuts. We put together an extraordinary lineup of guests. Those guests will lead off with John Rothmann, bottom of this hour, the professor, the historian, the intellectual. He will begin speaking, and I will not be able to get a word in edgewise. It is basically, I grab a cup of coffee and a cigarette, and I go outside, and I just let Rothmann go for a half hour. So you'll see that. If you've never seen it before, it's pretty amazing. You think I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. It's pretty cool. Man has a skill, and you got to applaud it. And in the next hour, second hour, two guests. One is a Democratic strategist. Man, if you need a Democratic strategist to win this next election, you ain't trying. Now, the real strategy will be to try to make sure that the next election happens, midterms and the general. But it is important to learn what strategies might be employed from the standpoint of messaging, from the standpoint of pointing to the horror show that is so much of American policy right now going on the streets of America. But you know something? We'll play you a cut in a moment. I'm going to play you some Joe Rogan. And he had Rand Paul on. And there's a very well-circulated Joe Rogan clip right now on the ICE shooting, during which he says, I don't think this ICE agent was in danger to the point that he had to discharge a weapon and kill somebody. He says this, Joe Rogan. And what's being circulated, Tony was the one who pointed this out to me, which is amazing. This Tony,
Thanks, Tony.
He doesn't really typically show up to the much interest in pointing stuff out to me, is my point. I don't mean to be, I love Tony. In fact, I think he's the mother's milk of this show, if I can say it, yes. But what I mean is that he really pointed to the Rogan clip in its entirety and that we had to play that. And so that's what we are going to do. But even beyond the Rogan clip in its entirety, you'll hear Rand Paul, who was the guest, speak back at this Rogan notion about ICE and why it's in American cities, et cetera. And the reason I mention this in the context of the Democrats and the Democratic strategist is that we get ourselves into a bubble. We get ourselves into our own echo chamber. We talk about the MAGA echo chamber, the Fox News echo chamber, but our echo chamber doesn't really hear much of what their echo chamber is doing. Mm-hmm. And as a result, we think, oh my God, how can you not, this is going to be a landslide. How can you not see the utter craziness that's going on? This guy wants to put his name on everything. He wants to take over Greenland. He's already taken over Venezuela. He's talking about taking over Colombia, too, making moves and noise like he's going to go into Mexico. Started his administration by saying he wants to take over Canada, has taken on American allies. The NATO alliance looks like it's in trouble. And that's before you even get to the U.S. Then in the U.S., he's taken over the streets with a bunch of thugs, undertrained, quote, ICE agents who are harassing many people who are American citizens or have legal residency here and creating a sense of terror and lawlessness in American cities. How can you vote for anything GOP after that? Well, actually, they don't see it that way.
How
And
could
you'll hear a little bit of that from Rand Paul. What's that, Kim?
How could you have voted for Trump after January 6th? I mean,
Sure.
same thing.
Exactly.
So we took for granted that, and he goes. So I mean, clearly, if that didn't make a difference, why would any of the rest of it?
Right. My family is MAGA and they love what's going on, says
Right.
Jose Kelly. Exactly. So I guess we're gonna get to all this, and I just want to mention it. Also, as advertised, it may be that we are all in our own bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in mine. Tucker Carlson's in his, although I think Tucker Carlson finds the soft spot. Tucker Carlson reminds me of like a really slick salesperson who just is looking to make the sale. And they're going to find whatever rap they need find to get one over. But Tucker Carlson is a rising, just because I've mentioned it, is a rising star on the right and in the GOP. And I think he will make a run for president. First show of 2026, says Stan Pollock, CPA, my favorite CPA. Big shout out. He says, first show of 2026, he says this in a super chat for those of you who are just listening and wondering why I'm speaking about Stan Pollock. Happy New Year to the crew. Keep doing what you do. Thanks. Stan Pollock, thank you so
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much is what I
Thank you so much.
Yeah, 2026, wow. Pretty wild. The other thing as advertised is the fact that the nation, notwithstanding what I said about the silos and about the echo chambers, has flipped on ice. So that which was popular is no longer popular. I think the president of Greenland just told Trump to F off in her native tongue. I hope so. No translator. Thank you, Tammy Stansell. There is a meeting, I think is what is being referred to there, with J.D. Vance, I know. I don't know if Trump is at the meeting.
It's over. The meeting happened.
Okay.
And we are awaiting the results of said meeting. They were supposed to do some type of briefing, but I don't know if they have yet.
Who was at the meeting, though, I guess is what I'm asking. Wasn't it J.D. Vance? There it is, J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio. And the Danish officials.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is craziness that we're even having this meeting, don't you think? I mean, it's utterly absurd. Let me just have a sip of my Coachella Valley coffee, which is a piece of heaven. Yes, this is a sanctioned coffee break. That's right. And tea as well. Kim drinking the tea. It's CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. If you are wanting to experience one of the great taste experiences related to coffee and tea and spices, you must check out this boutique roastery. Mm-hmm. Everything is hand roasted, hand curated. They are meticulous in everything they do. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. There are tasting profiles under every bean. And you will find everything you need for a wondrous taste experience. I truly do love it. I was drinking it before they ever came on the show. And now, look at that. All organic, ethically sourced from women-owned farms. Cheers, everyone. Yes. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Use our discount code when you check out. It's Mark T at checkout. Mark T.
Put that coffee down.
You're right. Let me get on with things. But Mark T at checkout. Coachella Valley Coffee, 10% off with Mark T at checkout. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
There are some disturbing things happening in the world, and sadly, America is behind a bunch of them. I will start with something that just broke, and that is the raid on is it a Washington Post journalist that they've raided?
Yes, it was Washington Post journalist who allegedly they thought had some type of classified document or documents, and so the FBI came swooping in.
Go for it, Tony. Give me an update, please.
Right now in Virginia, where the Washington Post is reporting the FBI executed a search warrant at the home of their reporter, Hannah Natanson, this morning. According to the Post, federal agents searched her phone and devices, seizing 2 laptops. Attorney General Pam Bondi confirming the news in a post on X, writing the search warrant was executed at, quote, the home of a Washington Post journalist who was obtaining and reporting classified and illegally leaked information from a Pentagon contractor. NBC News senior justice reporter Ryan Riley is following the very latest for us. So Ryan, Bondi is saying the person who leaked this information is now behind bars. What else are we learning about the search executed this morning?
Yeah, so this reporter was actually someone who was known sort of as the whisperer for federal employees, as she had written a story about it, about posting on a page on Reddit where a lot of federal employees talk about their work. She listed her Signal info, and Signal has become this major way that reporters have to communicate with their sources these days because it offers those extra layers of protection. You can't just seize things from the cloud, as happens sometimes. You have to actually get the physical device. And so I think what we've seen now is between the Trump administration's policies sort of retracting from some of the restrictions that were in place in terms of subpoenaing and taking actions against members of the news media, combined with the use of Signal, which doesn't allow the federal government to sort of swoop in and get that data from the cloud. You actually have to have the physical device. So I think what we're seeing now is the convergence of those two issues, and it's something that a lot of media organizations have been worried about for a very long time, and reporters have been worried about for a long time, with those restrictions being put out of place, and now with these actual physical searches happening of reporters' homes. Vicky,
this only seems like the beginning, and it's deeply troubling, of course. The war on the media, the war on journalists, the war on information is at the center of so much that this regime is doing. And America just isn't the same place. And this is yet another example of it. So the fact that they could get a warrant almost seems quaint now, because America really isn't a place where warrants are needed for anything anymore. They're pulling people out of cars. They're making arrests. They're making violent takedowns of so many citizens and so many people who have legal residency here. And even those who don't have legal residency shouldn't be subjected to the thuggishness of ICE, all of which exists without a warrant. They don't have warrants for any of these people or any of these actions that they take in American cities, particularly those that we've seen in Minneapolis. So the raid of a journalist's home, they get a warrant. We'll watch that. But it is, as I say, of a kind as it continues. And it goes alongside this, which I find insane. You're so worried about classical information. First of all, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, after being voted out of office, took highly classified, military classified documents to Mar-a-Lago, where they were put in a bathroom, where they were put in a ballroom, where they were put in the office and bedroom closet of what was then the former president. I've read accounts from FBI agents and those involved in national security who say, had that been anyone else but an ex-president, it would have been an immediate arrest. Those documents were so sensitive that would have been an immediate arrest. So leave aside a violation of security protocol. The documents jacked were so very sensitive that had it been anyone else, that person would be behind bars. Now, that's not what I'm talking about, though. When I talk about, boy, isn't it wild that they're going into this journalist's home looking for classified stuff. They have given the keys to the kingdom of classified stuff to who? Elon Musk. Elon Musk and Grok now have access to unclassified and classified materials across the spectrum, and the Pentagon made this announcement with their chief Pentagon announcer, Pete Hegseth, with his square jaw and his sweat beating up on his face as he reads off teleprompter and tries uncomfortably to ad-lib. He makes the announcement that Grok will now have access to all of this. This is chilling. There will be no more classified information. Grok has it on the AI platform. All of this information. Does Grok have security clearance? Those using Grok, I mean?
What could go wrong, Mark?
Grok is the Elon Musk AI, for those who don't know. Yeah, and it's tied to X. So here is Pete Hegseth making the announcement. Go ahead, Tony.
Excited to announce the next frontier AI model company to join GenAI.mil, and that is Grok from XAI, which will go live later this month. So I want to thank you, Elon, and your incredible team for leaning forward with us on this as well. Very soon we will have the world's leading AI models on every unclassified and classified network throughout our department. Long overdue. To further that, today at my direction, we're executing an AI acceleration strategy that will extend our lead in military AI established during President Trump's first term. This strategy will unleash experimentation, eliminate bureaucratic barriers, focus on investments, and demonstrate the execution approach needed to ensure we lead in military AI and that it grows more dominant into the future. Excited to—
Yeah, this is a
scary situation.
This is what happens when you have utter incompetence running everything and they're in the thrall of Elon Musk or other tech billionaires who have put themselves in the orbit of this administration. This is not a one-off. It's not just Grok. You know, there was a $200 million contract from the government awarded to Google and the AI guys over there, you know. I mean, this is not, again, I guess what I'm trying to say, the only breach of information and of sensitive governmental material. But they have, again, Anthropic, Google, OpenAI, and XAI, they're trying to develop AI as a tool of the Pentagon, but at the same time, you know, Grok is this, it's embedded into the X platform, which has come under fire for, you know, generating sexual and violent imagery. It's been limited in many countries, blocked in some. Grok is in Indonesia. It was blocked. In Malaysia, it is blocked. And in Britain, there has been a formal investigation into X regarding the use of Grok to manipulate images of women and children, a lot of sexualized material, a lot of white nationalist material, a lot of Nazi material within the Grok. In fact, that's one of the aspects of the British investigation, is to look into some of this. So, again, I don't know exactly, maybe you know, Tony, the context, but
yeah, that was a joke meme going around of it. Just said, put a bikini on me, and it put a bikini. Grok will not do anything naked. It doesn't do minors. So that's a
what about Grok declaring itself a mega Hitler? Did you see that?
No, it was a joke. It was a thing. Basically, if you give it enough prompts, Grok 3, if I remember right, did that. It basically, you fed it, that person fed it enough prompts, like, if I did this, and if,
I see,
you know,
I see.
It was basically twisting it, what it did. And that's why it was Mega Hitler or something like that. It's like they're on Grok 7 now. So that was like 20 of them ago. So again,
okay,
Britain's
so
a whole other mess.
You think that this is pearl clutching, or do you think that there's something to this? I mean, here's what
I think they need an AI model that works good, and I think that's why they went with it, because they have to compete. It's a competitive marketplace right now. That's what I think.
Right.
And well, I mean, Grok is a good AI. Let's honestly, it is. It works well. Again, AI today is more of a generative search, is basically what it is.
Right.
You know, and it kind of an image kind of creation, and Grok does work well. You know, I know Musk, whatever, but you know, would you have a Chinese
I get
one
it.
instead?
My feeling about and you know, this is my bias, but I think it's borne out in a lot of the decisions that have been made. Mm-hmm. I think anything that Hegseth is part of as a decision is probably a bad decision. I can almost, I mean, so that's my bias. I'm,
No. But again, just what my opinion on just the AI is just, it is highly competitive. I mean, that's why like memory prices and like video game consoles are going up in price now because everything is an AI. Everything.
Here's
What's it? NVIDIA. So.
Right.
Here's my question though. If we know that AI makes mistakes, which it does, right? And it's still a work. It's still a work in progress. Then why would we want to feed it our nation's secrets?
Yeah,
we're just not there yet.
Tony's basically saying, look, you need AI involved, and so
it's going to be involved. Too late.
Right.
Let's get one that works well. I guess that's our best bet.
Right. Well enough is the point. Look, everything's flawed, but you need an AI involvement, and so that's kind of built into it. So that's so in any case, the AI models as represented by Grok, as represented by Musk, they're involved with the Pentagon now in a big way. Access to classified and not classified documents. One of the things that I have been concerned with, as you know, ever since SpaceX started, because there were investigations into SpaceX, they were through the EPA, SpaceX, and a lot of the stuff that they do with SpaceX has destroyed fragile habitats. There's been sort of is completely ignored the kind of environmental concerns, basic environmental concerns for communities surrounding areas where the X spacecraft and other involvement with X has been going on. There are tax investigations that were going on with Musk as well, and USAID had outstanding fines against him. So what I'm trying to say is that the government has been on footing that was checking Musk, that was saying, hey, you can't do this. We're fining you if you do that for this violation, et cetera. Now that's completely gone, right? And Musk went in and he dismantled, frankly, USAID and EPA to the point that they're not even relevant in any way to Musk any longer, and went into the IRS as well. And so he's really freed himself of any governmental restriction, and so to the point. The idea somehow that Musk has so much government connection with huge government contracts, I made the point a couple of years ago that it's really the tail wagging the dog. That was back then. You can't go after Musk for anything. He can shut down your Starlink and shut down your SpaceX, strand your astronauts. I mean, these are all things that Musk, it's an implied threat. So all I want to say on Musk is that he's grown to the point now that he is, in a sense, the Siamese twin of government. I see no way to separate him or check him in any way, or any of these institutions, really, that he's built alongside the government of the United States. So that
Obi-Wan
is always
says, Musk has control of Grok, and I don't trust Musk at all, he says.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of where I am, but that might be and as Tony says, hey, you need something, and if Grok works, then there you go.
Well, what other mega corporation would you rather trust with
exactly.
AI?
I mean, you can
They're all mega corporations running it, all of them.
You want Bezos or you want
communist governments.
Right, exactly. So
The Mark Thompson Show.
Before I get to Brother Rothman, I want to mention that ICE no es bueno. ICE, breaking news. A new poll showing that Americans have completely flipped on ICE. A majority of Americans want to abolish ICE. This after the incident in Minneapolis, where one of the ICE, quote, agents fatally shot that mother of three. This is an Economist YouGov poll published yesterday after we got off the air. It found that 46% of Americans support abolishing the agency completely in the wake of that ICE agent Jonathan Ross shooting and killing Renee Good.
Well,
this is a remarkable turnaround. In September of 2024, 19% of Americans supported abolishing ICE. Only 19%. And now you have 46% saying get rid of ICE.
If we get rid of ICE, who will enforce our immigration laws?
No, I mean, it depends what you mean by our immigration laws. They're
like people overstaying their welcome, people,
overstaying their welcome
that shouldn't be here, the criminals that, are supposed to be deported. Because that does happen.
Yeah, of course. You can make the argument that first of all, you're not going to abolish ICE. So the call for abolishment of ICE is like calling for the abolishing of the cops or something.
Sure.
What you're really getting is a reduction in ICE, which is, as I said before, sorry, I feel a sneeze coming on.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
You're going to end up with a reduction in ICE funding. Right now they have money to burn. There's no way in which you could spend all the money they're spending. They're spending it in all these different ways. In fact, I want to thank a listener for sending me a great article from an investigative journalist who was just curious about what it was like to go to ICE and get a job. And after my Rothmann conversation, I'll share it with you. She went in and she didn't even really want a job with ICE. She just wanted to report on it. And what she discovered, I read the whole thing. I want to read it all for you. It's a little long, but I'll summarize and read from the article a little bit after the top of the hour, my conversation with Rothmann. But back to the point, you'll just see a reduction in ICE. You'll see a more responsible ICE that isn't somehow emboldened to get away with the thuggery that these ICE agents get away with. But, it's not going to happen under this administration. But I would definitely, if I'm a Democrat, vote for the reduction in funding for ICE. In fact, I'll talk to this Democratic strategist in the next hour about this. This should be something that the Democrats are all pounding in every single interview. We must reduce the amount of money they have. They are hiring total incompetence. So 47% believe ICE was making America less safe. Only 34% said more safe, and another 49% said that they had a very, very little confidence in ICE. So half of America has little confidence in ICE. Mm-hmm. And these ICE agents are only making this clear every day. As to the politics of it, Schumer and Jeffries, of course, Chuck Schumer on the Senate side, Jeffries on the House side, have so far refused to say whether they support abolishing ICE. They've also declined to say whether they would bring up ICE's budget. ICE's budget is going up to $170 billion this year because of that one big, beautiful bill. And you cannot tell me that you can't cut that budget. If the Democrats don't make a real move to cut that budget, then they're not playing in the game. They're not, leave aside winning and losing. Where's your morality? ICE is out of control. So this has serious political ramifications, and if the Democrats play it right, then I think you'll end up with a win and hopefully a rollback in ICE budgeting. And the other thing you can do, if you can't roll back the budget, which you should do, is you can attach funding to certain demands. So you can demand warrants, you can demand protocols, you can demand training, all of these things they don't have. I'll play this. Block this dude, man. It's true, Chris, that Obama used to deport 5 million. Great. Yeah, it was done in a much different way. I don't remember them going to Home Depot and just grabbing 9 guys, chasing some babysitter across a parking lot, throwing her to the ground. I don't remember that under Obama.
Nope, I didn't see those videos.
Yeah. And plus, here's my thing, Chris. You can make the point about Obama deporting. Make it once. I don't need it in caps 11 times, and for that reason, you're getting thrown out of the chat.
Good day, sir.
I don't mind you disagreeing with me, but just disagree with me. You don't have to. I don't need the caps, and
you cannot say you love your country.
Exactly. All right, we continue.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This man is a brilliant historian. He is a lecturer. He is a host of his own podcast called Around the Political World with John Rothmann. John Rothmann, everyone.
Hi,
How do you feel the Democrats should address this ICE funding, John Rothmann?
They're not going to be able to reduce the funding unless they have votes in the Congress. What has to happen is the courts have to intervene. And I say this emphatically. I want you to know I'm not in favor of the abolition of ICE. What I am in favor of is the elimination of an administration that empowers ICE to break the law. And I believe that is the key. I don't want to cut off my nose to spite my face. I want to be very clear about this. The abuses of power by the Trump administration are so manifest. And I'll tell you the thing that shocked me the most. The fact that the Minnesota authorities were denied access to any investigation of the death of Ms. Good. What in the world is going on when you cannot have a state or local government have the information it needs to decide what it is going to do? I find what has happened to be horrific. Now, I had a discussion earlier today with someone who debated very eloquently about how Miss Good was in the way. She used her car as a weapon. And the interesting thing is, I watched the same material and didn't come to that conclusion. But what is even more remarkable is that the president, the vice president, and the Secretary for Homeland Security have all come to a conclusion with no investigation at all. And now we are told they don't want to investigate that. They want to investigate Miss Good and her partner or her wife. This is the most outrageous, egregious misuse of power. And I know that I do a terrible thing when I do this, Mark, but I go back to the Nixon days. Had Nixon pulled something like this, why he would have been impeached by the House and convicted by the Senate.
Well, go to the Obama days. Had Obama done this? I mean, it was. You have the Obama video, Tony, and then I want to play the Rogan video. But you have the Obama video. Actually, Barack Obama commented on this and was sort of saying, and he didn't even talk about the killing, but he spoke of the fact that imagine if I'd sent ICE agents or troops of any kind to American cities. He said I would be, vilified. Fox News' hair would be on fire. Here's Barack Obama. Go ahead, Tony.
If I had sent in the National Guard into Texas and just said, you know what, a lot of problems in Dallas. A lot of crime there. And I don't care what Governor Abbott says. I'm going to kind of take over law enforcement because I think things are out of control. It is mind-boggling to me how Fox News would have responded.
Yeah.
I mean, there were times where I remember there was a moment, I don't remember what year this was, where the military just had regular exercises in Texas, out of one of the bases, Fort Hood, and Ted Cruz and a number of other folks were out there lending credence to the fact that I was preparing for, the whole black helicopter, one world government. I was about to take over Texas. And this is like a sitting U.S. senator.
Yeah.
It's like kind of retweeting about what's going on with these exercises.
Secret ops.
I didn't even have any. I didn't monitor military exercises because you know what? That was the Pentagon's job. That was the Secretary of Defense and the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the COCOMs. That was their job to prepare and focus on military readiness, and then they'd report to me. The point is that we have blown through, just in the last 6 months, a whole range of not simply assumptions, but rules and laws and practices that were put in place to ensure that nobody's above the law. and that we don't use the federal government to simply reward our friends and punish our enemies.
He's right. He's 100% correct. And that's what's so shocking.
Meantime, I wanted to play for you something that is being talked about, and I think in the context of the changing view of ICE on the part of Americans. It was a poll I shared just a few minutes ago. I mean, Americans have really flipped by a complete 20%, north of 20% now, wanting ICE out of these American cities, feeling what ICE is doing is wrong. But on the question of the good killing, or the killing of
Ms.
the
Good,
mother of three, here is Joe Rogan, and Tony found this entire clip. You're only seeing typically on CNN and elsewhere, even on social media and independent media, you're only seeing an excerpted clip. This is the entire clip from Joe Rogan. Go ahead, Tony.
It's complicated, obviously, but it's also very ugly. To watch someone shoot a U.S. citizen, especially a woman, in the face,
right? Where
it's like, I'm not that guy. I don't know what he thought. And again, this is a guy who had almost been run over, but it just looked horrific to me. I mean, when people say it's justifiable because the car hit him, it seemed like she was kind of turning the car away. It seemed like she was out of her fucking mind to begin with. That lady seemed crazy, right? And didn't she move there specifically to get involved in all this?
Yeah, I don't know.
She didn't seem mentally healthy, but does that mean she should be shot in the head? Is there no other way to handle this? But and then you got these people that are showing up at these ICE people and they're blocking traffic, and she was one of them that was doing those kind of things where they think they're an activist and they're an agitator.
Right. But I get back to my initial
This is Rand Paul
sort of
speaking
argument about having local police do it. They're not doing it, but in an ideal world, the way we fix this and have less ICE agents in cities where they're having a very difficult job is the local people do their job and they're not sanctuary cities.
Well, how could you stop sanctuary cities?
Well, I'm not
Is it
sure I
legal?
can. But what I'm saying is that some of the blame for ICE being there is the left and their policies of sanctuary cities.
Right.
So when they want to just say, oh, we hate ICE and we don't want ICE in our city, maybe they should be reflecting that ICE is in your city because you're disobeying the law. And when someone is arrested and they're clearly not a citizen, you're not reporting them to ICE. See, it's defiance, it's nullification. They have been nullifying our laws on deportation for years and years. And so now they have something they really dislike. But who brought it upon? My point is the left brought this. It's not an answer, but it's an explanation that the left is bringing this to their cities because they're refusing to enforce the laws.
Right, and they don't want those laws. They don't like those laws. They think that once people are here, they should be able to stay. And, this is what my friend Gad Saad calls suicidal empathy.
Yep,
I
follow him.
And I think there's a balance to be achieved. I just don't know how it gets done.
Okay, so that is a bit more of the Rogan clip, and you can see how you begin to get into a space that is more equivocal, And as I'll just reiterate, the latest polling on the heels of that ICE agent Jonathan Ross killing that mother of three in, quote, self-defense, 46% of Americans polled want to abolish ICE. Now, speak to what we've just heard and the Rand Paul retort that essentially says, hey, these cities brought it on themselves, these sanctuary cities. This is what they wrought.
Nonsense. It's absolutely appalling. And I want to make something crystal clear. I have participated in anti-Trump demonstrations, and nobody paid me. The accusation by Donald Trump and Pam Bondi of that, and of course, the Secretary of Homeland Security, that Governor Noem, that people who oppose Trump are being paid to go into the streets as paid agitators. Well, let me tell you something, Mark. If I get a check, I'll sign it right over to you.
But more to the point, John, that we've just heard, the idea somehow that this is the predictable clapback because these sanctuary cities have permitted these people who are overstayed on their visa, who have sort of taken advantage of the American system illegally. They've taken over to the point that this ICE is a predictable reaction, this ICE movement and this ICE flex.
Let me tell you, that must mean, Mark, that you in Los Angeles and I in San Francisco are part of this, and we are not. And I want to make it even more clear. The idea that the Somalis in Minnesota are part of this gigantic fraud is so absurd, it's ridiculous.
Well, the ridiculous part, I think, is that you can somehow pull people out of cars, that you can begin this ICE dragnet and somehow in that way root out fraud. Fraud and immigration violation is the subterfuge. We were talking about this yesterday. The fraud is the claim of fraud. What they're actually doing is moving these ICE officers in this thuggish way. They are paid goons, and they're going to American cities and they're shaking people down and creating a fear.
You're right.
So you're not going to root out fraud by dragging some autistic kid out of his car. I mean, it's outrageous. Tony, show me a couple of these ICE incidents just to put this in context. I mean, these are nauseating. This is America now. These are ICE agents in Minneapolis smashing a U.S. citizen's car and then dragging him out, kneeling on his neck, and arresting him. Go ahead, Tony, please. They drag him out of the car, for those who are just listening or not, who are on the podcast. It takes 3 of them to arrest this guy, They're kneeling on his neck. I mean, it's really brutal on a snowy ice surface there, parking lot. That's just one incident. Show me one more, Tony. I'm outraged by this. This is a woman.
You're under arrest for making
I never said a threat. I never said anything. I never said anything.
You can tell by the protocol, by how many people, men it takes, these guys it takes to take these. They have are those semi-automatic weapons? They have machine guns.
I love you. Let me go.
They're completely militarized. This is all scary. Here's another one. ICE agents spraying pepper spray into a family car, hitting this little girl.
Mama, you okay, Mama? You okay?
I mean, how old is that kid? Not even 2 years old. This is the ICE that has created the chilling effect in Minnesota, and I think they're going to export that everywhere. Here's one last one. Tony, thank you so much. Anyway, so this is the environment in which you're making these points, I guess is what I'm getting at.
1,000 more ICE troops into Minneapolis, St. Paul. There are more ICE troops there than there are police officers. It is absurd. And by the way, I use these terms very carefully. These are Gestapo tactics on the streets of America. And I don't believe anyone can dispute that. And who do I blame? Well, it starts with Donald Trump. This is what he has said he wants done. And he's talking about violation of civil rights of people who have no ability to defend themselves. This is, to me, the most dangerous moment one can imagine, because now you have the White House, the Vice President's office, the President's cabinet, and the director of the FBI all saying that this is defensible conduct. And it isn't. And may I make it clear, Mark, if this were a Democrat, if this were Barack Obama or Joe Biden in the White House, I would be just as angry. And that, to me, is the real indication.
I mean, I think that is the litmus test. You're right. Let me play you now Stephen Miller, who I think is the architect of this, even as you suggest the responsible party might be Trump. Miller is the architect, and he's right out in front on it. Here you go.
To all ICE officers, you have federal immunity in the conduct of your duties. And anybody who lays a hand on you or tries to stop you or tries to obstruct you is committing a felony. You have immunity to perform your duties, and no one, no city official, no state official, no illegal alien, no leftist agitator or domestic insurrectionist can prevent you from fulfilling your legal obligations and duties. And the Department of Justice has made clear that if officials cross that line into obstruction, into criminal conspiracy against the United States or against ICE officers, then they will face justice.
You understand, Mark, there is no absolute immunity for police or federal workers. You can work in the federal government. You can work in the CIA, the FBI. It doesn't matter. If you break the law, you can be indicted. There is no absolute immunity. And the idea that a statement like that can be made undermines the very underpinnings of American democracy.
But that speaks and reflects it speaks to and reflects the disposition of this administration and of this guy who, as I say, is architect of all of this.
And let me point out, you know what his formal title is? He's Deputy Chief of Staff at the White House.
Right. That's almost a immaterial. He's clearly the guy,
Yes, but the fact that a person who would do such things, make such statements, is Deputy Chief of Staff at the White House. Well, I always remember people who have been White House Chief of Staffs who have done things as well. They were not above the law. And I want to point out some of them went to jail.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, should this regime ever lose power in any kind of way relevant to them being held to account, that might be in the offing. I want to pivot, because there's a lot going on, John, and ask you about Iran, because there is a war footing that this Trump administration has put us on with Iran. I mean, you could always argue the adversarial war footing was something that America has kind of been flirting with for some time now, but now they're evacuating, the U.S. military is, non-essential personnel from the air base in Qatar. They say this is a precautionary measure while President Trump weighs ordering military action over the protests in Iran. Let
me point out that airlines are suspending flights to Israel for that very reason. There is an expectation that within the next 24 hours, Donald Trump will, as he said, it's locked and loaded, that he may in fact pull the trigger.
The odd thing on the heels of what we're talking about with ICE is that Iran, racked by protests, a regime in trouble, they've cracked down on those protesters. They've even executed, they've fast-tracked a bunch of executions. I sort of feel that's against the backdrop of America and the American regime now having that same sort of crackdown against protesters, calling them domestic terrorists, and even, as we've seen on the streets of Minneapolis, killing one, and then hanging it on the hook of self-defense. It's an eerie philosophical hypocrisy apart from the real danger that exists with America and Iran militarily.
I don't agree with you exactly on this, because there is a difference between the government of Iran, the mullahs, and Donald Trump. But I see what you are saying and how people read it. We haven't talked about what's going on in Central and South America, and maybe we won't get to it today, but I want to remind you of the expression Yankee imperialism. Once upon a time, we were trusted. We aren't trusted anymore. When Donald Trump proclaims he is the acting president of Venezuela, when he threatens Colombia, when he threatens to seize Greenland over the objection of our allies, and I'm speaking now directly about the Netherlands, and I'm Denmark, and I'm speaking about the simple reality of Greenland itself. And make no mistake, what have they said in Greenland? They've said, they've said, you want to have more bases here? You want to put more people here? Come ahead. They're as worried about the Russians and the Chinese as can be.
Oh, the treaty allows the Americans to have as many military bases as they want there, and as much. Yeah.
And what is?
Get me back to Iran, though, John. What does America get from Iran, and what happens in Iran with an American attack? Doesn't it strengthen the regime to have America attack Iran? Don't the American, I'm seeing from protesters, and again, this is just stuff that's gone viral. I'm seeing, don't do this, America. It only helps the regime when you attack because go ahead.
I have a
Speak to
very
that.
good friend who's Iranian, who is no friend of this regime. But he said the last thing we need is the United States attacking Iran, because that will cause a reaction among the population of Iran. They remember Mossadegh in the 1950s. They remember the Shah and all of that. And so it is very important to understand Iran is burning. The people are up in arms. And there may be ways we can help them. But direct armed intervention, U.S. military action, that to me, well, represents a real switch in policy.
But help me, John, with what Trump, at least representing the Americans, what does America get from the attack on Iran?
The elimination of Iran, the mullahs in Iran, not the country, but the mullahs. It eliminates the radicalization of various groups in the Middle East. It gives us greater access to their oil, and if you'll pardon a bad pun, it's a slippery slope.
Let me ask you about Mossadegh. You mentioned it. Isn't that what Americans at the time? Isn't that the American regime did with the Mossadegh? He was a legally elected leader of Iran, and we replaced him with the Shah, didn't we?
Democratically elected, and he nationalized Iranian oil. And as a result, British Petroleum got in touch with us and said, we can't have this. And so the decision was made to remove Mossadegh and to replace him with the Shah. And the Shah was willing to do whatever America wanted him to do. And it's an interesting reflection, because for many, even though these are distinctly different moments in history, the parallels, particularly when you include Venezuela and President Trump declaring himself the acting president of Venezuela, when you consider all of that, you understand why people are so concerned. And I want you to understand, we've talked about Greenland very briefly. I just want you to understand the importance of NATO. America is the backbone of NATO. And if confidence in NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, were shattered by something we did in Greenland, believe me, it would have ramifications across the globe. And so that's something else to consider.
Well, I mean, it's quite relevant for the reasons you said, and also that they've just wrapped up this meeting. And I guess it didn't go well. This is the Vance-Rubio meeting with Danish leaders.
And the Danish leaders have made clear Greenland is not for sale. By the way, the funniest thing I heard all week was the idea that if Cuba is liberated, finally, from these terrible people, Marco Rubio could go down there and be president of Cuba. I mean, the absurd comments that come out from this administration, which are not discussed in depth and ought to be analyzed, are so profoundly disturbing. So that's another.
I'll play you something from Marco Rubio in a second. Tony, you'll find it if you look in your email. I sent you something from Marco Rubio. But before I get to that, I want to just mention the Greenland thing and round it off. They, coming out of the meeting, said that there's still fundamental disagreements between the Americans and the Danes about Greenland. And then President Trump said today, just moments ago, that, quote, anything less than U.S. control of Greenland is unacceptable. He says that arguing that the United States needs the territory for national security purposes is the only argument he'll accept, and he thinks it will strengthen NATO. Here's the quote: NATO becomes far more formidable and effective with Greenland in the hands of the United States. Anything less than that is unacceptable.
It's absurd.
Vance and Rubio, who are utter supplicants, they are there demanding the same of the Danes. Here's Rubio, though. You'll remember him on the campaign trail when he was campaigning against Trump. This is when he was speaking the truth. Go ahead, Tony.
Around the world, you have a leader that emerges and basically says, don't put your faith in yourselves, don't put your faith in society, put your faith in me. I'm a strong leader, and I'm going to make things better all by myself. This is very typical. You see it in the third world. You see it a lot in Latin America for decades. It's basically the argument he's making that he single-handedly is going to turn the country around. We've never been that kind of country. We have a president. The president is an American citizen who serves for a period of time, constrained by the constitutions and the powers vested in that office. The president works for the people, not the people for the president. And if you listen to the way he describes himself and what he's going to do, he's going to single-handedly do this and do that without regard for whether it's legal or not. Look, I think people are going to have to make up their mind. I can tell you this, no matter what happens in this election, for years to come, there are many people on the right, in the media, and voters at large that are going to be having to explain and justify how they fell into this trap of supporting Donald Trump, because this is not going to end well one way or the other. He's going to be the nominee and he's going to lose. Or he'll have thrown this party into its most chaotic and divisive period ever, and that's unfortunate, because the Republican Party is the home of the limited government free enterprise movement in America. And if it crumbles or it divides or it splits apart, it'll be very difficult to elect candidates that hold those views at any level of government until we can bring the party back together.
So Rubio knows the truth, but he has been able to seize American foreign policy and American strategies for takeover of parts of Latin America and many Latin American resources. And the truth of that is, you're not going to be able to get additional oil out of Venezuela. We said this hours after this Venezuelan attack on this show. The Venezuelan oil fields are a completely different kettle of fish, to use the old expression, than any of the other kinds of old school view of that Trump has of oil fields around the world. You don't just take them over and start pumping, redo the infrastructure, bring it up to standard, and now start pumping it. It's this heavy crude, and the infrastructure is so degraded over so many years that even that heavy crude is hard to get out of the ground, even if you were to bring it up. And it would take, on a timeline of 5 to 10 years, to build that back. And lastly, those corporate interests associated with generating the kind of infrastructure investment that would be associated with that, they've all said they don't want to go.
And
they said
that
it's
was
too dangerous.
Exxon.
It's
The
too
chief
dangerous and
operating officer
unpredictable.
Of Exxon made that comment at the White House, and Donald Trump immediately dissed him and said, well, we can do this without Exxon. I mean, the arrogance of power is so manifest in these kinds of absurd statements. I have no words to describe it. I'm deeply troubled. I want you to know I am deeply, deeply troubled by this. So we need to know that, fortunately, NATO is standing firm and is saying very clearly, you're not going after Greenland. And I think if they could have, they would have said something about Venezuela. But let me tell you the advantage to Iran. If you had a pro-American leader in Iran and you could pump the oil in Iran, because I would remind you that during the Yom Kippur War in 1973, when the Arab oil embargo was imposed, what kept things in balance was the pumping of Iranian oil. The Shah proved to be a loyal ally of the United States. There's a lot of talk about Reza Pahlavi, and I urge people to go to the Nixon Library website, because Reza Pahlavi, who would be the new Shah if he were restored, gave a speech in which he basically said, I am America's ally in the Middle East. And now we know that Steve Witkoff has been talking privately to Reza Pahlavi, who would be the next Shah. So I'm pointing all these things out. It's extremely disconcerting, and that is the least I can say about it.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess the word is that if American military moves into Greenland, that you'll have other NATO nations defending that space against a NATO nation. I mean, this is how quickly things escalate. And meantime, with the right hand, the U.S. military seems likely to launch some kind of attack in Iran. This is all stuff. This is, again, 2 weeks or something like that after the Venezuelan incursion. So this is this guy moves quickly and breaks a lot of stuff.
Can I quickly point out that Pete Hegseth is being sued by Senator Mark Kelly on the grounds that there was recrimination, revenge, by reducing Kelly's rank and reducing his pay, his retirement pay. And all I can tell you is when you see the Secretary of Defense, and I'm making a point of calling him what he is, the Secretary of Defense, not the Secretary of War, when you see this kind of action by an administration, it is completely out of control. And the tragedy, Mark, is that the Republicans in Congress evidently don't have the courage to stand up and say no to this president. And it will haunt the Republican Party for at least a generation without any question.
Let me troll Rothman on his way out with a comment, because we disagreed on this, Rothman. And I think I was right and you were wrong. It's a rare thing. I know you're often right and I'm wrong. But this is one I think I'm looking for an apology from you. Maybe just a modest apology. Here's the comment. Soul Envy says, didn't Rothman propose the Nobel Peace Prize for Trump a few weeks ago? Or did I dream that?
No, I never.
Please comment, sir.
Yeah, I never proposed a Peace Prize. What I said is for the release of the hostages, which Donald Trump took full credit for. That was an amazing thing which merited his consideration for a Peace Prize, for the Nobel Prize. But he doesn't deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. He never deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. This is a man who has violated every ethical standard and a man who ought to be condemned. So I am.
But you did recommend him for the FIFA Peace Prize, didn't you, John? I believe you really did. The FIFA one, the soccer Peace Prize, didn't you?
I know nothing about soccer.
I'm kidding. All right. All right.
I knew if I did, you would get a big kick out of it.
Yeah. All right. John Rothman, you can find him on Around the Political World with John Rothman, his podcast. Love him here on Wednesdays. John, you are our brother, and we look forward to the next time. Thank you, my friend.
And I hope the world is more peaceful in a week.
Boy.
But I doubt it.
That would be nice. Thanks, John. John Rothman, everybody. Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'm so glad you decided to join. We are a live show 2 to 4 in the East, 11 to 1 in the West, and across the globe. I still want to share that. I may have to do it tomorrow. That journalist's account of having applied for a job with ICE. She's brilliant. It's a great piece, and it was sent to me by one of our listeners. So thank you very much. You can always send me stuff if you think there's something that warrants attention. I'll read it or I'll watch it. I'd much prefer to read stuff than I get these YouTube things sent to me all the time. It's like, because I'm in for a 20-minute watch of this thing, and before I realize, this isn't really. but send me whatever you want.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Yes. I wanted to find this listener's name. But
is this the story where a journalist says she was offered a job with ICE after an interview that lasted less than 6 minutes?
Yes, exactly.
Without her having to write a single signature on agency paperwork?
That's exactly right.
A reporter from Slate named Laura Jadid, who talked about her experience going to an ICE Career Expo event in Dallas, Texas, and apparently offering on-the-spot hiring for deportation officers. So
yeah, it's recently sent to me ahead of all of this, a day ahead of time. It was sent to me, and I can't find the person who sent it, but I will. I read the piece, and I was just, it's terrific. And you'll see a bunch of interviews with her now. And I was even thinking of getting her on this show. But the piece that she wrote is better than any interview. It really, she writes with a great style. And I'll share parts of it with you, as I promised. If there's time, I'll share it with you today. And if there's not time, because we do have Belinda today as well, I'll read it tomorrow in chunks, and you'll really get a feel for it. It's pretty special. So that's that. Essentially, that's the piece that shows you directly in different ways how ICE is a total mess. They are incompetence run by incompetence, and someone who didn't even really want the ICE job and who was clearly Googleable to be shown to be an activist, an anti-ICE activist, is hired, is offered a job with the $50,000 bonus and everything.
She said, Somehow, despite never submitting any of the paperwork they sent me, not the background check or identification info, not the domestic violence affidavit, none of it, ICE had apparently offered me a job.
Exactly. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, all right. More on that, as I say, a little bit later in the show. We'll try to give you bits and pieces, or as I say, I'll read pertinent parts of it tomorrow when we get to it. So, all right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'm excited to talk about talk to a longtime Democratic strategist, the founder of the National Democratic Training Committee, which is the largest Democratic training organization in the country, training both candidates and staffs. We talk about messaging on this show all the time, political messaging, and how important it is. I mean, I think Trump focused on key messages that he knew would resonate with the public. I mean, it's all a con. It's all BS. But he knew what to say and how to say it. America was ready for a strong man, apparently. And there has to be messaging with strength. There has to be messaging with confidence. You saw it with Mamdani in New York. And I'm looking forward to talking to him. So against that backdrop, please welcome Kelly Dietrich. First visit to the show. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you because I keep hearing from my audience, those who are high on the hopium of the future, you know, how bad things are now, that the Democrats in the midterms are going to make a move. The Democrats in the general will make an even bigger move. But those moves can only be made with messaging. And, you know, guys like me always feel like we know the kind of message that should be sent. I don't know if we do or not, but we probably do on some stuff and don't on others. But what do you feel, just as a start, should be the issues around which Democrats should be messaging now and as the midterms get closer?
Yeah, easy. Great question. Affordability. This is all about the economy. This president came in promising to fix affordability on day one. And instead, his cronies, they're making billions of dollars. I don't know about you, my grocery bill is going up. I've got a daughter. I'm worried about her health care. The cost of that is rising out of control. And yet all this guy seems to be doing is starting foreign wars, flipping off American workers, apparently, going door to door, raiding houses with ICE. This is not, I like what you said about incompetence. This is incompetence. I'll even quote Senator Tillis from North Carolina. I'm sick of stupid, right? The messaging needs to be how we are going to make life more affordable for you, the voter. That simple.
It's funny because what you just said, I like, and I've only heard it really done effectively by, is it Paul Ossoff down in Georgia?
Paul.
Yeah.
Senator Ossoff.
Yeah. And he's the only other guy who heard him do it. And I've been crowing about this for a while. And that is the point you made, which is about affordability. But it should be juxtaposed. It should be joined. It should always be conjoined with corruption. So as you see this corrupt administration moneying itself and the billions of dollars flowing into ICE, it is a supercharged agency. And in that huge budget is a bunch of giveaways to friends. You can go back and look. The media people are friends. They're the wives or husbands of those in power. This is a grift. And the same is true at the Pentagon with a supercharged budget. And the same is true with the ballroom. And the same is true. You want to play that corruption, I think, against the fact this is while you can't even buy an avocado in goddamn America anymore because it's too expensive. You can't pay for the monthly insurance on your health care because it's too expensive. These things have to be conjoined, in my judgment.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. The key to this is making certain that if you mention corruption, you tie it back to how it's affecting the voter, right? This is human psychology. It's 101. Look, the National Democratic Training Committee, which I founded, we're 10 years old, exists for the sole purpose of lowering the barrier of entry. If you want to get involved in Democratic politics, you want to run for office, you want to work a campaign, you want to volunteer, be a local leader, whatever it is, We want to make it as easy as possible, whether you live in Michigan, California, Florida, Arkansas, we don't care. We do that for free because we need to be building long-term power and empowering anyone who is sick of this corruption, this fascism, to be able to make the change in their community. Now, we've had more than 125,000 people. Senator Ossoff down in Georgia, we have helped and supported him. In Georgia in 25, for the first time, we elected statewide, I think it's public conservation directors. I'm getting that wrong, but the point is statewide office, not at the governor level, we were winning. We've ended the supermajority in Mississippi. I bring up these examples because the right, part of their message, part of their power is trying to convince us that we are alone and that we are in the minority, that our views and values are not shared by a majority of the American people, which in fact they are. The only reason the Republicans currently have power is because they have redrawn the lines unfairly in states around the country to maintain a hold on the House of Representatives. They're aided and abetted by those billionaire cronies who can control the algorithms. It is our job to stand up, fight back, push back. And the more that we don't take all of these red herring, all of these distractions, and focus on the fact that they promised you life would be better and more affordable. Is your grocery bill easier to afford? How many avocados did you buy today? Right?
Avocado's probably not, just from a messaging standpoint, the fruit you want, because it's viewed as it's the woke fruit, so don't mention it. So I mention avocado because it's a big part of my life, of course, because I'm a woke Californian. But yeah, you know that better than to use that as an example, Kelly, because you're a message guy. Let me ask you about the February filings. Isn't February the filing deadline for a lot of Democrats?
Yeah, late February, early March are the deadlines for filing for office in many states. Every state controls their own process for getting on the ballot. And part of that is registering to run. Those dates start happening in March, and they continue to roll throughout the year. Now, I don't know, I'll put you on the spot here. You have any idea how many elected offices there are in this country?
I mean, it might be, it's tens of thousands probably, right?
Even higher. There are more than 513,000.
Wow,
isn't that crazy? It's nuts. Yeah. So while many of us focus, when we think about running, it's the president, it's the Senate, it's those big sexy races, there are literally hundreds of thousands of those offices at the school board, the city council, your county board, all of those that are incredibly important as well. So what we want to do is encourage anyone here who wants to run. Let's make it as easy as possible. You decide you want to run. We have something called the Spark Launch Program. 8 easy steps, helps you get your campaign up and off the ground. Everything, again, is completely free because that is our mission. I should also note for any of your listeners or questioners out there, we're not affiliated with the DNC. We are not a formal part of the party. We are a completely separate entity. And all we want to do, build long-term power and lower that barrier of entry.
How do you get your money then, Kelly?
So we're donor funded. Entirely donor funded. That unfortunately takes up a lot of our time.
Sure.
But this is the reality of our current politics, right? But we take every dollar that we raise and invest it in programs, whether those are online academy at traindems.org. It's available 24/7 because if you're running for city council, for local office, you probably have a full-time job as well. Right? You should be able to come home after you get off work, have dinner, maybe relax. If you have a family, put your kids to bed, and then pick up an iPad and understand, what is a vote goal? How many votes do I need? And how do I figure that out? We make that all as easy as possible.
So the politics for dummy part and the sort of the steps is something that you do. Tell me, let me get back to the messaging.
Please.
Tell me what you feel the Democratic messaging should be on Venezuela and on the kind of military flex that seems to be at the center of this administration.
Yeah. I mean, look, Venezuela is an incredibly tough, difficult, and complex situation. Maduro's a nasty, nasty man. The fact that we have essentially invaded and abducted a foreign leader from a foreign country is significant. However, as candidates, you have such limited time, limited focus from the people, the voters you want to communicate with, that while if you're talking to a Venezuelan community, you should absolutely know the ins and outs on this issue and talk about it. For a vast majority of candidates, this is yet another part of what they call their muzzle velocity strategy, right? Let's overwhelm people. And so what that then causes us to talk about Venezuela. Well, then we're talking about ICE, and then we're talking about this, and we're talking about the Fed chair, and we're talking about that. We need to stay focused. Affordability. The invasion of Venezuela is a travesty that makes us less safe, less secure, and is a distraction from the fact that we have higher prices, healthcare is out of control, and the Epstein files haven't been released.
That's terrific. That's terrific. And that's simple. And I love the simplicity there. The Trump-centric messaging, Trump gave the finger to, I guess, auto workers. Was it auto workers who were telling her, F you? And Trump said, here it is right now. You can see him. He's walking across. He's getting into some, shout down with somebody. Then here he is giving these auto workers the finger. Significant, something that should be.
Yes, this is a gift. This is a gift. The president of the United States just gave the finger to working class America, right? He is so rattled. This snowflake is so rattled because one guy yelled something at him that the president of the United States thought he needed to give the finger and say F you to a hardworking American auto worker. That clip should be used in commercials throughout the country this election cycle, because that's exactly his attitude towards normal Americans who aren't his billionaire buddies.
That's a great, you can tell you're talking to a Democratic strategist or just a smart guy when it comes to messaging, because, I think that to take that incident and to pivot it to your message is kind of what the whole game is. Yeah. And as you say, corruption and affordability, that's my thing, and that's what I think Ossoff does so well in Georgia. I just believe that's what this should be about, and this can be an adjunct to that, right?
I'd be very curious to know what Mike Rogers, who's running for Senate, John James, Trump's hand-picked candidate for governor in Michigan, what do they think about this? Do they think it's okay to flip off an American auto worker like that? I think there's some questions that need to be asked.
What's amazing to me is I just am now remembering how during the auto strike, Joe Biden walked the line. Yes. At that time, he was the sitting president and a candidate still at that time.
Yeah.
He walked the line with striking auto workers, and it was an extraordinary thing, unprecedented.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump, in the theatrics that you know so well as a messenger, he, meaning that you're in a messaging game, not that you're a messenger that delivers things. In the messaging game, it is about the theater. He, of course, being a guy from the theater, if you will, and performance, assembled a bunch of paid guys who, it was at an auto plant. They're non-union, okay? Yeah. He had his own photo op with them, so it looked like he was there in front of union workers. The reality was they're non-union. You're walking or showing up with non-union guys while Biden is walking the line with union guys. And I found in general coverage, media coverage, there wasn't really much distinction being pointed to.
That is, what, I had forgotten about that. That is brilliant. Yeah, this is what happens when the president of the United States interacts with real workers, not paid agitators, paid performers. He's always accusing us of this bullshit. This is what happens when Donald Trump, cushy, born on third base, thinks he's hit a triple, billionaire, meets a real American worker. And he's got such thin skin that he can't handle it. So an image is worth 1,000 words. We should be using this clip over and over again, because this is what he has to say and thinks about you, the American worker, about his commitment to affordability, frankly, to anything that isn't enriching himself.
I mean, your messaging seems clear. It seems right on. Let me ask you something that's a little off the messaging questions in our last minute here, and that's related to something that is your focus, which is the midterms and then the general beyond. I'm greatly concerned about voter suppression. It's been taken to high art now, it seems, in many places. It's also something that I think is the ripple effect of ICE agents everywhere, of troops on the streets. You know, there's a suppressing of the vote that's going to go on here. So give me a moment on how you see the midterms playing out from the standpoint of suppression, of manipulation of vote, of legitimacy, if you will.
Yeah. I think Republicans are scared. And that is why you've seen this effort to try to redraw lines around the country, which is backfiring. They know they cannot win on the issues. They know they have failed in all of their campaign promises. And if they can't win, they'll change the rules. It is our job. I would say it is our duty and responsibility for living in a democracy to stand up and prevent this from happening. That is hard. That is intimidating. And we are not alone. Again, they want us to feel like we are the minority, like there are people who don't believe what we believe. The truth is, even in the reddest parts of this country, I got my start in politics in Kansas. There are not a lot of Democrats in Kansas. However, there are a lot more than you think. Because even if you put, 10 people in a room, 4 of them are leaning your way, at least, right? Even in the reddest parts. We need to stand up everywhere. Definitely in Minneapolis. I'm here in Chicago. ICE was throwing tear gas on the streets just a few blocks from my house. I have seen what this does personally. Every day I am angry, scared, fed up, worried about my kids' future. But every day I wake up thinking about what can I do to prevent this from happening. So our job is to empower everyone listening, anyone who hears about this. Protest, show that you are not afraid, because there is power in numbers. Vote, recruit your friends, stand up, be loud, be bold. I'm tired of apologizing that I think everyone should be able to afford healthcare. I don't care, right? You called yourself a woke California liberal? Yeah, I'm woke. What's the problem? Why aren't you? I'm tired of apologizing for this stuff. This is what we teach a lot of the candidates in the messaging as well, is people want a leader. They respect people who stand up for what they believe in. So be that leader. And if you don't want to run, if you can't work, that's fine. Recruit somebody who you think should, because we all need to be working together on this.
Well, and who knew that there are hundreds of thousands of seats you can run for in any number of ways to make a difference in America, right?
We can show you where they are, even in your area, traindems.org, a little bit of shameless self-promotion there.
No, we're going to have a link to it.
We would, there's no litmus test. If you're a Democrat, we will help.
Traindems.org. There'll be a link to it under this video. Kelly Dietrich, thank you. It's such a pleasure to meet you. And you've got the right idea, man. I hope it continues. You've got a friendly outpost here. So to the extent that platforms like this continue to exist, please come back and visit.
That's fantastic. We'd love to.
All right. Kelly Dietrich, everybody. Thanks, Kelly. Wow.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, I got to tell you, that's a clean message, and that's a real message aficionado. That's a real ninja on messaging. Pivot with everything to make it about your message. So we'll have a link to that website as we continue. This from Rick. I love that Ford worker. Just think how he struck Donnie's nerve. Don't tell me he's not guilty of all the BS that he's been accused of. I think he really did get get under Trump's skin in a big way, I agree. Never apologize for being authentic, says Joshua. True. Another great guest, Mark. They are drawn to your greatness, says Mike in Willow Glen. I need more Mike in Willow Glen. That's right. I need more Mike in Willow Glen. And I need...
They are kissing my ass.
Yeah, Trump has it. He's got all that. He's got a lot of Mike in Willow Glens around him. Kim's News and Belinda Waymouth joins next. Meantime, I can ask you, please. I ask you, please. Smash the like button if you would. It helps us in the world of YouTube.
Smash
I know it's
with
a
your
little
iron rod.
crazy thing, but if you're on the YouTube platform, smash the like button regardless of when you're watching this. And that helps us in the algorithm. Tony explained it to me a long time ago, and I didn't understand it then, and I don't understand it now, but it's important.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Smash it with your iron rod. Subscribe to the show. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever we have another video. And Kim's News, and we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
And Kim is gone when you're stuck with me. I love it. Wow. This might be a new. She's had enough. This is the thing.
There we go. Now my mic's on. Sorry about that. Yeah, Kim's missing. There's Kim.
Kim is missing. But I will tell you that her report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Go there and use our discount code MARKT at checkout. Multiple reports saying Germany, Sweden, and Canada will send troops to Greenland. This comes as President Trump threatens to take control of the Danish territory. Before meeting with officials from Denmark and Greenland today, Trump said that anything less than the U.S. control of Greenland would be unacceptable. The president saying that the U.S. needs Greenland for national security. Meanwhile, the Swedish prime minister posted that troops from his nation are arriving in Greenland today. And they are part of a group of several allied countries.
What?
As the Americans make more and more moves to take over Greenland. Only 17% of Americans back President Trump's plans to obtain Greenland for the United States. A new Reuters poll also finding that majorities of both Democrats and Republicans oppose using military force to take over the territory, which technically, of course, belongs to the NATO allied Denmark. Trump is saying that the mineral-rich Greenland is vital to national security in the face of threats from China or Russia. Here's Kim now.
So my apologies, my internet connection zapped out for a minute, but how did we end up on the other side of NATO allied troops? Germany and Sweden are sending troops to Greenland, and we're not involved? Like, we're on the other side of that?
Yeah, I mean, the reason they're sending them there is because they're sending them there to fight the Americans. I mean, this, as we've said, blows apart the NATO alliance. It just blows it apart. And it opens the door to all kinds of other aggression on the part of Russia. I mean, should they end the war in Ukraine? I mean, in a way, they're occupied with the war in Ukraine right now. The end of the war in Ukraine would allow them expansion to many of the old territories that made up the Soviet Union. So this is the end of NATO. Of course, Trump doesn't understand this, but the end of NATO is a true sad inflection moment. And what he also doesn't understand is the decades of relative peace, at least across Europe, are very much owing to that NATO alliance. So,
to the Middle East.
Yeah.
U.S. personnel are being evacuated from key Middle East bases as Trump considers taking action against Iran, which multiple news agencies say is imminent. That, according to multiple reports citing the United States officials, Trump warning Iran that the United States is looking at options for intervening in the crackdown of anti-government protests and stands ready to help. There will be no federal criminal rights investigation into the ICE-involved fatal shooting of Renee Good in Minneapolis last week. That's what you were talking about yesterday when you played the Liz Oyer video. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche making the announcement yesterday, leaving the investigation solely in the hands of the FBI. The 37-year-old was shot in her vehicle in what federal officials argue was justified self-defense, but it has sparked protests across the country. Articles of impeachment against Homeland Secretary Kristi Noem have been filed by a member of Congress. Illinois Democratic Congresswoman Robin Kelly citing the secretary's handling of the ICE crackdown. She also alleged Noem denied members of Congress oversight of ICE detention facilities. Kelly's impeachment articles also accuse Noem of violating public trust and abusing her power for personal benefit. The home of a Washington Post reporter searched by the FBI in connection to classified documents. According to the outlet, agents seized a phone, 2 laptop computers, and a Garmin watch from the home of reporter Hannah Nathanson. Though she is not the focus of the probe, the search warrant was part of an ongoing investigation into a government contractor. The Supreme Court is reviving an Illinois congressman's lawsuit over a state mail-in ballot law. Republican Congressman Michael Bost was granted the legal right to sue Illinois over its ability to count mail-in ballots received after Election Day, which is a practice being targeted by Trump and his allies. While the legality of the practice itself was not before the justices, the 7-2 ruling could pave the way for political candidates nationwide to challenge election laws more easily in their states. Illinois argued that chaos could ensue for election officials if justices sided with Congressman Bost. Michigan Senator Elissa Slotkin being investigated by federal prosecutors, her office confirming yesterday that there is an investigation ongoing. This comes after she participated in a video with other Democratic lawmakers urging members of the military as well as the intelligence community not to follow any orders that are illegal, which is their duty. Slotkin told the New York Times she found out about the investigation from the Office of the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. Civil rights icon Claudette Colvin has passed away at the age of 86. Colvin's 1955 arrest for refusing to give up her seat on a segregated Montgomery County bus helped spark the modern civil rights movement. A representative of Claudette Colvin's Legacy Foundation confirmed she died of natural causes in Texas yesterday. She was arrested months before Rosa Parks drew national attention for also refusing to give up her seat. Contempt of Congress charges against the Clintons will be voted on next week. That according to Republican Congressman James Comer, who heads the GOP-led House committee looking into the Epstein investigation. Former President Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton did not show for a scheduled deposition this week, accusing Republicans of selective prosecution. Residents of an apartment building in California have had enough of their naked neighbor, like the guy from Friends. Neighbors say the Sherman Oaks man constantly leaves his blinds wide open while just standing there in the nude. Don't put pictures of this one up, Tony. The man whose bedroom is just feet away from his neighbor's windows is also accused of performing explicit acts in the view of others. Neighbors.
Tony, that's not very nice.
Neighbors have recorded him. They have called police, and one resident saying she's contacted the apartment managers and they are not doing anything about this. I mean, I guess, are you allowed to do what you're going to do in the sanctity of your own home?
I've never seen anything like it.
All right. Well,
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
People are putting notes in their windows, pleading with this man, hey, dude, close the blinds. Nobody wants to see what you've got to offer. Come on now.
They pay me a lot of money for having attitude.
Yeah, I guess. Wow, that's pretty wild.
You know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Man.
Naked guy in Sherman Oaks. This report.
Loving that. Wow.
Sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com, and the tea is so precious to me. I love it so much. It is the best product. Honestly, I'll be drinking this stuff for the rest of my life. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com is the website. Take a look at their coffees and teas. And if you find anything you'd like to order, please make sure that you use our code for 10% off. MARKT, no spaces, MARKT. That is the code. And that'll save you some money at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show.
Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Don't even play.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
I did everything right and they indicted me. I misspoke. I stand corrected. My words upset so many people. My bad. I'm sorry.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
was very inappropriate.
My beautiful Christians, I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. I only like people that like me.
Put that coffee down.
There's never been anything like this.
Right on, everybody. Hey, a quick note. Claudette Colvin died. She was 86. She was Rosa Parks before Rosa Parks, right, Kim? She was arrested for not giving up her seat on a segregated Montgomery bus.
Yeah.
And that helped spark the modern civil rights movement.
Yeah, we just talked about that in news as well. She passed
did you?
away.
Sorry, I had to step out for a second.
But
okay.
Everybody needs to go get some Coachella
then,
Valley coffee. No, I'm glad though, because it's good to focus on this more, because she died yesterday in Texas. And as you said, she was the first to do this, and then Rosa Parks did it. And so Rosa Parks gets the credit, but it's really Claudette who was the first to stand up and say, I'm not moving. There were 2 white girls on the bus sitting right in front of her and a friend. And the people on the bus said, you're too close to these white girls. You got to move. The friend moved and Claudette did not. And she was arrested because of that. So taking a stand, there's a legacy foundation with her name attached to it as well. And they do say that she passed away yesterday at the age of 86.
Yeah. Glad you had the story. Really, really good. Quickly, this before Belinda, I didn't have war with Denmark on my bingo card, says John Watson. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty extraordinary. I think a lot of people dump their MAGA friends and family, says Becky. So they are in an insulated bubble. I'm in a huge red area in Placer County, that's in California. And there are many who love what is going on. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. I was saying that at the beginning of the show, that I know it seems incredible, but there are those who are totally cool with this, you know. But Claudette did get a great song by Roy Orbison, says Scott Falcon. Oh, that's good knowledge. Thank you, Scott. A new Wendy's drive-thru. Did you have this story in news?
I didn't, but I did see it. It's crazy.
A new Wendy's drive-thru here in Polk County is completely AI-driven.
What?
Yeah. Soon you'll be able to have your AI go talk to the Wendy's AI and bring you the Wendy's burger. That is really the future. And thank you, by the way, Wes in Florida, for the $5 super chat.
They say it's leading innovation with Wendy's Fresh AI is what they're calling it.
This from Debbie with a $20 super chat. Love you, super chatters.
Big shout out.
Big shout out. Exactly. Something to think about. Many, in capital letters, of our combat pilots train with NATO pilots and participate with them in military exercises here and abroad. My niece is one of them. They will not want to go up against friends and fellow pilots. Oh, I couldn't agree more. I hadn't thought of that angle. That's really interesting. That, you know, these are colleagues. These are, you know, it's turning on your NATO family. This is really going to throw the military into an interesting predicament, although, again, it's so full of incompetence at the highest level now, Hegseth being the incompetent in chief. And CC Ryder says, I agree with John on this. This is on the abolishment of ICE, because the new poll shows that 46% of Americans want ICE abolished. Some Democrats are pushing for abolishment of ICE, and this will be backfiring on them. Like when they said defund the police, that was weaponized by MAGA against them. Overhaul ICE. Well, of course, I agree with you. I mean, they're not going to ban ICE. That's what I was kind of saying to Kim. But you're right. The call for the ban of ICE can be weaponized. I love overhaul ICE. Love that. Love it. That should be the marching cry, you know. Trump is going to invade Norway, says John, so he can force them to give him the Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, that's a great reason to invade. Well thought. All right. Thank you for your comments. We'll get to a few more if there is time at the end of the show. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is a segment that we do every Wednesday. We look at the planet. We do it in a segment we call It's the Planet, Stupid.
The planet Earth.
Some call me nature.
I am very passionate about the planet.
Earth. A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock. Judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
It's the planet stupid.
No. It's the planet, stupid.
Our guide for It's the Planet Stupid, the eco-journalist Belinda Weymouth. Hello, Belinda.
Hi.
A lot of good reaction to your last appearance on this show.
Yeah, the little bear and
yeah, you had a lot of good stuff. So I feel like this appearance may have news that sort of reflects the grim nature of this administration when it comes to the environment.
Yeah, it does. I'm going to talk about the forces that are, running contrary to it at the end. But yeah, this is
good. So there's some good news at the end. You're telling me?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always going to end on good news. You know
All right,
that.
so stay tuned for the good news.
You
All
know
right.
that. Okay. So here's the thing: the EPA. So where to start on this?
There's no P in EPA anymore.
No, there's no protection. It's supposed to be for the protection of, human health and environmental health. But the human health has been taken out of it. And absolutely categorically with the announcement that was made this week that the value of human lives is not going to be considered when they're looking at two pollutants, PM 2.5, particulate matter, which gets into our lungs. It's terrible for people with asthma. It causes premature deaths, and ozone. So the cost benefit of analysis of having a healthy population, that's out. They're just going to consider what it costs to industry. So it's a gift to polluting businesses. You can run your operation more cheaply, and yes, you can give us polluted water, polluted air, and congratulations, U.S. business, because they have been lobbying for this. I mean, I just have to tell you this one little quote because it's just. So in 2018, someone from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce wrote a letter to the EPA and said they needed to be more transparent about the uncertainty in cost and benefit estimates, particularly in respect to human health benefits. And so all these business groups like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce who want to be able to, pollute and make more money and make their shareholders happy, but, damn the rest of, the people out there and their health, they'll all be, clapping at this. So let's back up to what this, EPA has been doing. So hot off the inauguration in March last year, Lee Zeldin came out guns blazing. In March, he went before the US people to announce the biggest deregulatory news in US history. They were going to get rid of 31 regulations. They were going to be just, wiped out. And what they had learned was that you have to go fast because remember the good old days of Scotty Pruitt when he was in charge of the EPA?
Sure, yeah.
First administration.
He resigned in shame.
Yeah, he had to resign in shame. So what Scotty did was rather than, get out there and start deregulating, he was busy inside the EPA building his cone of silence, his little telephone booth where he could get on the blower and tell his aides, it's this hotel that has the lotion that my wife likes. Will you go and get it? He was busy doing that kind of, stuff. So I really do miss the days of Scotty Pruitt, I have to say. Because this time around, we've got someone who just, like I said, came out guns blazing because it takes a long time to get rid of regulatory rules, the things that keep us safe, us Americans. And, this sort of ties into this, what's happening in Greenland right now and the sending of troops. When Trump says, make America great again, he's not talking about make Americans great again. He's not talking about make Americans safe, cared, prioritized, none of those things. It's really about this image of America. And another thing, and this is sort of slightly in his. I mean, I'm not defending him actually, but it's like what Tom Tillis, the guy who's leaving the Senate, the North Carolina senator, who said he's sick of dumb. And we have too many dumb people in this administration. You mentioned a few of them, right before, Hegseth, Christie Noem, these people who were advising him. And Trump is too ill-informed and doesn't have a grasp on these really, really important things. So we're making these dumb military movements. And then the stuff that the EPA is doing, this just flies in the face of what makes sense, because the rules that the Biden administration put in place about ozone and about particulate pollution, By the year 2032, they would have reduced sick days, so Americans having to take time off work because of air pollution damage, by 290,000 sick days. And it would have saved, per year, 4,500 people. Like, we lose a lot of people to air, to bad air. And to just flagrantly say that human health and human beings don't matter, and to so far the thing that we've talked about, that a polluting industry, all it needs to do right now is send an email. I could, like right here, I could just type on my computer while I'm talking to you, Mark, I'd like an exemption to the Clean Air Act. Well, so far 180 different entities, so chemical plants, a third of our coal-fired power plants have been and steel manufacturing have been given exemptions to the Clean Air Act. So they're just allowed to pollute. And of course, who does that affect? It affects people who live in the areas where you're, cheek by jowl with these coal-fired power plants. It's not the people in DC. It's
interesting. This is a really important and interesting point that you're making, especially you've made it kind of broadly, and then you've made it specifically, the notion somehow that when we talk about America first, that it's not Americans first. It's the brand of America as sort of this strong, we can do anything we want, come here and screw with us and we'll destroy you and everything you love. That's the America first that is reflected in these policies, because if it were Americans first, as you say, those that are crippled by the kind of pollution that you're talking about and the pollutants that you're talking about that are in the air, the soil, the water, those Americans would receive protections from the Environmental Protection Agency. You could say part of the America brand is that we have the best air, we have the clearest and healthiest water and soil, we restrict pollutants to protect our people, and we have the healthiest population on Earth. Instead, we just don't care about the health of our people. And the last thing I'll say, and it just kind of, sometimes I like to state this back to you to make sure I'm right, is that is that I'm hearing it right, is you're making such a damning statement about how powerful simple regulations would be in protecting the health of Americans, and it would forward so many of these people who would be able to show up to work, be healthy. They wouldn't have to take sick days. The economy would be fed by all of these things. And you just see the absurdity of rolling back these regulations, all for, I guess, a bottom line in the corporate structure. But even that at some point is going to, I think, show the effects of these other things.
Yeah, this is the yeah. Everything you said is right, and the thing about it, well done. You got it in one. It's the myopia of this whole thing. It's so short term that we're going to sort of, have these great profits short term, but long term, the cost of all these things. And, who is it who works in your coal-fired power plants and your polluting industries? Yes, and you're going to make those people sick. And it's like the thing that they did in May when they told government agencies, another White House administration, doozy, you don't have to take into account the economic cost of climate change, the damage done by climate change, by floods, fires, the increased tornadoes, hurricanes, all those things. You don't have to take them into account unless the law absolutely specifies that you do when making rules and putting regulations in place. Just don't take any notice of those. And that's just dumb and dumber. They just keep doing things that are, dumb, and then something that's even dumber. So I think the thing that Tom Tiller said, I just love it. I'm sick of dumb. I'm a Republican, and I'm sick of dumb.
Sure. It reminds me of that line from that became famous anyway, from Succession, where he looked at his kids and said, "You're not serious people." And I feel as though these aren't serious people. They are agenda driven, and they'll state things with great fervor but they're not serious. They don't see nuance. They don't see the interlocking nature of so many of the things that you talk about on this show. So, yeah.
Well, the tapestry of life, that all these things, us, the environment, all the resources that they depend on, and the clean air. I mean, the thing that's really funny to me and kind of as anathema to what's happening at the EPA is now Trump wants his faces are going to be on your annual pass for a national park, and it's all about beautiful America. Well, man, if you want to keep beautiful America, America beautiful, they're taking away the protections for wetlands. Now states aren't going to be able to oppose pipelines going through their states. The EPA wants to, smash those states' ability to fight those. And wetlands are super important. And, the Everglades, all the places, lakes, all the things, the bodies of water that people flock to and are in our national parks that are so, so important. Yeah. And you're going to get hauled over the coals because people are putting stickers on top of Trump's face, and if you do that and they see that when you come into the national park, you're going to get pulled aside and have more than your wrist slapped, because
they'll void it. So
you have to pay
you
for
have
a
to
new
pay, you
pass.
pay a lot of money for what we're showing you right now, which is an admission into the national parks. And there's a picture traditionally of George Washington. And I forget who was the other. Maybe it was another president, or maybe it was just George Washington on it prior to this.
Might have been John. Might have been Muir. John Muir might have been on.
Yeah,
there,
but so these two. But
Roosevelt.
Trump insisted that his face be there alongside. It's actually bigger than George Washington's. So you now have this pass with George Washington's face, and as I say, slightly larger is Donald Trump's stern visage looking back at you, and people were putting stickers over Trump's face, for those who just aren't familiar with this. So it was their way of quietly protesting and objecting to the fact that the guy had added his face to this pass. Well, when the White House got wind of this, they said, we're going to void passes, and this is policy, void any passes with stickers over Trump's face. And so this is the way in which he can exert himself on this area. But what you've said, I think, is so key, which is the irony is you're not protecting these parks. You're not protecting the very thing that you've put your face on. You're actually opening it up to everything from oil exploration and mineral exploitation to, I mean, maybe at some point, chemical dumping and, dumping of all sorts. I mean, Trump sees this acreage as acreage that should be used, not appreciated.
Yeah. Well, all the national forests that surround our national parks, which are so important for keeping them intact, and having more area for wildlife to live in, not just a park that's full of tourists. Yeah, it's crazy, and that's why I say, he's ill-informed about these things. He's got some ideas, like national parks are, America's beautiful, we should protect them. But then he's got all these people around him who, and he wants to exploit too. He wants to be this big, strong guy. This military stuff is totally about wanting to look like an international strong man. But yeah, what's happening environmentally, and the one thing I want to tell everyone is, so far, out of the 31 things that they said that they were going to get rid of, only 2 have happened. So oil and gas have 18 extra months to get in line with their methane and organic compound emissions. And coal-fired power plants, of course, because Trump somehow loves coal, they've got an extra 5 years to get in line with their the heavy metals that are going into drinking water. So, 5 more years of drinking mercury and other heavy metals. Sorry, people. And then, coal-fired power plants are supposed to clean up their act with the water. But one of the things that happens when you try to get rid of regulations that are in place, and the reason why Zeldin went so fast and so hard.
Zeldin is the interior director.
He's the head of the EPA. Is that
head of the EPA? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Who's the head of interior? I forget now. Anyway,
interior. It'll come to me as soon as the show's over.
It's another lobbyist. Anyways, yeah.
They're all lobbyists. They're just in that revolving door of I'm a government official now. I'm lobbying for the oil and gas. Which
Burgum,
the EPA
Doug
is full
Burgum.
of,
that's who it is. Yeah. Go ahead.
So
this is Zeldin. We have a picture of him, J.D. Vance smiling at him as Zeldin's making these statements. Go ahead.
J.D. Vance, who's a complete turncoat. It takes a long time in the courts to do this. And, the process is, you've got to have time for public opinions and it can take years. They get they get heard in the DC circuit court, and it takes a long time. The DC circuit is a little more left-leaning. Of course, you've got the Supreme Court there in, DC who could, who's right-leaning, who could, grab the case. But it does get caught up for a long time. And so this is why, things like, remember the endangerment finding? We were all aghast last year when they said, that's out, but those things, they're not so quick to overturn. And the thing that I was going to talk about, which is the good news part of it, is there are so many organizations that are not just, they're environmental advocates, but they have really strong legal teams. Like the NRDC, that's scientists and lawyers, the National Resource Defense Council. And so all these organizations, and they are taking them to court. They have all the data. They have been aligned with NOAA and all these places that have created all this great data. And then these are the guys who behind the scenes are conserving and making sure that all the data that's being scrubbed off the administration agencies' websites that, talks about climate change, talks about what's going to happen to the weather. There are scientists working to save all of this data. Now, it's a Herculean effort. But it's going to be really important to have all this stuff. Yeah, I love the NRDC. They're fantastic. Oh, and then I have to tell you something that's really ironic also about what the administration's doing at the EPA, because this is quite important. But there are all these scientists who are working really hard behind the scenes to make sure that these really important environmental academic papers and all the data that has been created here in America by these incredible scientists, that it is stashed. We do have it, and we will be able to use it when the revolving door of, the White House, we get, someone in, again, who believes in climate change, which is really important. But this, guys, is kind of funny. So it's a really big process for the DOJ, the Department of Justice, to fight and get rid of these regulations. It takes hours and hours of people power. And because there are all there's all this paperwork and you need a lot of staff. Well, what happened to the DOJ thanks to the DOGE? DOGE fired thousands and thousands of employees. So now the DOGE is understaffed with people it needs to write and do all the sort of the grunt work to get this deregulatory process going in the courts.
Oh, that's wild. That is a wild twist.
Nice,
Did
right?
everybody hear that twist? That's a wonderful twist.
Yeah. So the DOG is now understaffed because of the DOJ is understaffed because of DOGE, D-O-G-E, the doggies. The doggies got in there, fired thousands and thousands of government employees, the people who do all the paperwork and get this deregulatory process going and all the paperwork in front of the judges and to the DC circuit courts. There aren't enough people to do it.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I love that twist to it's sort of the self-own that happened as a result. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I love that you give us a little good news on the way out.
Always.
I'm so grateful. I mean, frankly, the environmental stranglehold that this administration has, and the lack of protections and the wanton destruction, it all has to do with greed. It all has to do with a lack of understanding. It all has to do with an incompetence. I mean, even more so than the first Trump go around.
Oh yeah, no, they are breaking things as fast as they can. And look at the damage they're doing in the first year. I mean, our heads are spinning.
But I love the little twist about Doge and the DOJ. Find Belinda across social media. Belinda Waymouth is Waymouth. We'll drop this video on the weekend so more can see it. And so appreciate you always, Belinda. Thank you.
My pleasure. See you soon.
Belinda Waymouth, It's the Planet Stupid for
more. It's the Planet Stupid.
No. It's the planet, stupid.
Next time, only on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Right on, everyone. Thank you for your interactions with the show. Can we all marry Belinda and move to New Zealand? It's asked. Yeah, that would be an idea, wouldn't it? I don't know if...
She is pretty awesome.
She's pretty great. Yeah. The incompetence worked in our favor here, says Jano. In that one case, that's right. Yeah. Greed and a thirst for power, says Obi-Wan. Indeed. Thank you, Belinda. A lot of thanks for Belinda. Greed and racism, says Gregory. Yeah. It's definitely the planet stupid. It's just no opinion. Yeah. Still waiting for the 1,400% back on my prescription, says Mark Elliott. Yeah, where is that 1,400% we're supposed to be getting? Quick check of Luis, who is our very funny, sarcastic king in Southern California. Luis says, I guess MAGA now equals Make America Greater Again, meaning greater territory, Venezuela, Greenland, Panama, Canada. There's a tacky new Trump Tower in your future. Yeah, wow. Thank you, Luis, for the $5 super chat.
Big shout out.
Yeah, appreciate our super chatters. I like this play from Europe, says Joshua Kyle. Push your pawns forward and make Trump play next. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what has happened. Josh is right. The NATO countries, a handful of them, are already moving into Greenland. So they're sort of saying, hey, you want to come take this? Come take it. But you're going to be essentially fighting against your own alliance, which Trump may do. I mean, he's out of his mind. I think he is a mad king. And I'm super excited about everybody who has forwarded this show, shared videos on this show. There's a lot of sharing going on, and that's always a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I love
sharing
to
and
share.
caring. Yeah.
Sharing and caring. My last sip of Coachella Valley coffee, I'm telling you, I just had one of those.
You need to make more.
So I wasn't even here on Monday. I'm going to tell you a little personal thing.
Oh.
Not a big deal, but I wasn't even here on Monday. And so yesterday was my only day I worked. I worked here and I worked over KFI radio. And I'm so exhausted that I woke up this morning and I go, man, it's only Wednesday? Is that possible? It feels like it's Friday.
I know that feeling so much.
And Tony lives that feeling because Tony works 11 jobs.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah. It's never Friday. But Tony, am I right? It's never Friday for you.
Never. I have no days off. I monetize every minute of my day. That's what I decided to do.
Unreal.
Living out here in California, I got to make money somehow.
Yeah. I mean, it's
and radio is a business that's...
I forward the clips with guests all the time, says Steve. Come on, Steve.
Big shout out.
Big shout out. Thank you for forwarding our stuff. Chip was great. Gene says Chip was great. He filled in on Monday, and he really was great. Trump doesn't care about NATO. I agree with that, Randy. I think he probably doesn't care about NATO. But it is... Well, NATO's sanctioned America. I mean, the problem is America has great strength now, but America can get itself into a lot of trouble, and I think already is. 1 year under Trump seems like 20. It says, yeah. It always seems like, gosh, is it only 1 year? It's that same thing I felt this morning. It only 1 year? Man. Tony is the man. Respect, says the surface spins.
Nope.
Yeah, I don't know if Tony's the man, to be honest. But
it's only because you don't know me.
I love Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Come on.
We all love Tony.
We all love him.
Kim, how are you?
I'm grateful for everyone who was part of the show today. You can find these videos across the YouTube verse, and also you can find this show as an audio podcast across Spotify, across iHeartRadio, and across the Apple Podcast and Google Podcast universe. So please take advantage and share with friends. China will be a conversation that we'll have tomorrow. We'll have many conversations about the legalities of certain things going on in this administration with the former federal prosecutor David Katz tomorrow. Looking forward to that.
We have also tomorrow Russ Baker, the CEO and editor-in-chief of Who, What, Why.
Oh, my God.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Just read a great piece from Who, What, Why just this morning. That'd be great.
Bye-bye.
I know. We have a lot to get to. We'll get to it all tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Till tomorrow. Bye-bye.